Hi guys, I hope you are well. So this is another one of my question response videos. So I had a lovely comment from Ralph Anthony, not sure which, Torres, who asked me a really good question. And I have some spare time, I'll tell you why in a moment, and I thought I would answer it. If you find the video useful, please do click like. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. If you are interested in the podcast, do please let me know. That would be really good. Also, to remind you that there will be a video on this coming very, very soon, but I am taking a group of students on holiday next week, but there will be a group sign-up class that you can join as from sort of, second week of September. I will be sorting that out. So if that's something that you'd like to do, you perhaps can't afford individual classes, but you'd like to sign up according to your level to a group class, then we will be making that happen. So, if you're interested in that, I've had a couple of emails already because I've mentioned it in previous videos, do please just drop me an email at thelogiclanguagelearning@gmail.com and I'll get back to you, and then I'll obviously do a video in due course. So Ralph asked me, so to quickly clarify what's going on, so I'm so exhausted. So I'm taking a load of students to France next week. We were supposed to originally have our get-together day today. There's a massive train strike in the UK, as I mentioned in a video. So I picked the lovely Claire up last night and we went out for a drink and dinner. She's then gone out today. Ungrateful wretch. Then we picked up the lovely Susan she managed to get herself here from Heathrow. We walked around killing some time before she got into her Airbnb. She's now gone for a little sleep. My lovely Elizabeth, who's coming to France with me, is coming all the way from the West Country, Cornwall, on a coach to get here. My God. And she will be coming later, and we are going to the French pub that we all adore. So I have a little bit of spare time, and I thought this has been something on my to-do list for a long time. And thank you for your really nice compliment, Ralph, and I consider all offers. Get in touch. So here we go. I also got glutened last night, so you can see the black under my eyes because I had a bit of stuff I shouldn't have had. Right, so Ralph asked, with location, do you say Avenue de Lumière or Avenue des Lumières? Okay, this is part of a bigger question. All right, this is part of several bigger questions which I think are more useful. So the first thing is to consider compound nouns. So if you had let's think of our classic usages of de first. So up until this point, the de that you are more aware of, as we've mentioned in previous videos, is with a quantity, so beaucoup de. So for example, there's lots of light, il y a beaucoup de lumière. Bear in mind that light could be plural or singular here. So lots of light, beaucoup de lumière, lots of lights, beaucoup de lumière. There isn't any light, il n'y a pas de lumière. Beautiful lights, de belles lumières, plural. But where we also start seeing a de in language is a compound noun. Okay, and I need to do a video on compound nouns generally. So one of the interesting things about compound nouns is that you have usages of them where you have de and a with no preposition. You have a with a preposition when it comes to certain things like food, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So for example, purpose in French is often compounded with an a. So for example, a soup spoon, une cuillère à soupe, for the purpose of soup. Cuillère à café, coffee spoon, okay? It's like saying a spoon for coffee, but without saying une cuillère pour le café. So that's a compound. So sort of like if you sort of said a student's handbook, un livre d'étudiant, rather than the book of the student's book, le livre de l'étudiant. So if it kind of what it is contains, it's almost like using de and then the simple noun is like making an adjective of the noun. So, for example, what kind of class is it? It's a French class, un cours d'histoire. It's a history class, un cours de français. It's a history class, un cours d'histoire. In French, that's often histoire géo. A maths, or math if you're American class, un cours de mathematics, un cours de maths. So, if you were to say avenue, and then, so at, like I said, is purpose as well. So, you know, cuillère à soupe, cuillère à café, machine à laver. Okay? You often have the à for the purpose of what the thing is. Now, there are times when it's different. There are times when it sticks very clearly to that. But what you kind of want to figure here, Anthony, is that avenue des Lumières. So very, very commonly with names, it will be of the and then the thing. So I did like a general search on Google Maps to see what avenue des Lumières came up. So for example, avenue des Champs-Élysées, yeah, would be the name of the Champs-Élysées, which is its full title. Avenue des Lumières, avenue des Figuiers, there's plenty of them. So you could have an avenue de Lumière, an avenue de Figuier, but it would kind of be in the concept of a quantity word. There was an avenue of lights in front of us. There were lots of lights. Il y avait beaucoup de lumière. You know, there was an avenue de lumière. If it's a name, and you've used capitals in the example that you've given, so I presume you mean a name rather than saying there was just, you know, two parallel lines of, you know, dotted lights. You have used capitals, then very much more commonly it will be the day. Both are by definition acceptable. So for example, if you've just got somewhere that's locally known as something, it will, you know, locally, it will often just have avenue de, and that could then be a name. Yeah, you know, avenue de, and then sort of Lumière as a sort of name, you know, a surname or a nickname for the road. But more commonly, if you are naming it after something plural, it will go to the avenue des. But with names, it's not so much a specific rule of grammar because it is a proper name. So it's more about what are you going to take from that for grammar for yourself. So other things to consider with de that I will do a separate video, and my God, will somebody please remind me if I've not done this in about a week to 2 weeks of getting back from France. But the other one that really bothers you is de France versus de la France, and you see examples of both. So again, if it's kind of adjectival, it kind of uses the de. Rather, when it's talking about the kind of place, it often tends to use the. So, for example, Roi de France, the king. What king? The king of France, that kind of king. In the middle of France, au milieu de place, la France. You know, vin de France, what kind of wine? You know, wine which comes from France, le vin qui vient de la France, because you're talking about the place, rather than as a sort of compound noun, les vins de France. So you will get both. And that's a kind of nice pattern, is to sort of think, if you're using it as an adjective rather than a place name. Now, other prepositions don't do that. You don't have to worry about that. So anytime you say for, or, you know, without, or, no, forget without. Anytime you say like for example, for France, pour la France, you know, it's just on an a that will bypass this, like en France. You know, sorry, on and de that will bypass this. So yes, so that's just a slight segue just into, it's not that rule per se is going to explain your avenue business totally. It's just opening you up to the concept of de as a, de on its own as a compound. So if you said there's an avenue of trees, you know, there's an avenue d'arbres, an avenue which is known for the trees. Also on a local level, if it was the avenue of the lights that you always saw. Let's be very clear. If you use the word the in anything with your de, even if it's, you know, a quantity, let's be very clear. Lots of light beaucoup de lumière. Lots of the light that we get in this apartment is from beaucoup de la lumière. Lots of lights, quantity, beaucoup de lumière. Lots of the lights, beaucoup des lumières. So if it were locally, like say, for example, traditionally and historically, there'd always been lights, the lights that were known to come through the forest or something, plural lights, different lights at different time, with all kinds of myth and folklore surrounding them, it might be very, very natural to say, avenue of the lights that you see, avenue des lumières. There's also that to consider as well. So when I talk about quantity, you can have quantity with the du, de, la, des, as long as you specifically meant the. So for example, if I said, lots of people, beaucoup de personnes, fewer people. Notice fewer people, guys, not less people. Bad English, fewer people. So moins de personnes. Too many people, trop de personnes. If you said lots of the people I work with, beaucoup des personnes, and even though we're talking about quantity, we would go back to de and les. Yeah. Too many of the people I know, whatever. I don't get to see very often or something, trop des personnes, that's absolutely fine. Because you are saying, and that one is very common, Anthony, when you, Ralph. I love Ralph. I used to love Ralph on the Muppets with his little sad face in his ears. I had an uncle, Ralph, actually. If you had, he lived in Canada, actually, for a bit. If you, where was I going? Quantity with a de and the preposition. Something of the, like a bottle of wine, une bouteille de vin, a bottle of the wine that you gave me, une bouteille du vin que tu m'as donné. The example I just remembered, we were talking about lots of friends, beaucoup d'amis. You guys all want to say beaucoup des amis. That's a very common thing to say, but that's not necessary. So to answer your question more commonly, it will be avenue des lumières. It's just the pattern that it takes. Know when we would say it, know when we wouldn't say it, and be more open to the fact that as a name, that's the name that you're going to get from the street, but it's not going to be grammatically awful if it had a de, because it might be known as that. But generally, if you were saying avenue, so Oaks Street, avenue des Chênes, it wouldn't be avenue des Chênes, because that then sounds like the description, there's an avenue of oaks. So it's more commonly going to be the day, okay? But like I said, it could be the de, either locally, it's just known as that, it's the compound, Oak Avenue, rather than Avenue of the Oaks. Even with the plurality, even with the singular, both are acceptable according to the history of the place and according to whether or not you're using avenue as a kind of quantity. There's an avenue of oaks, okay? If, for example, you're using a word like a street word that weren't by definition, but again, it kind of could be, like if you're saying a road of oaks, for example, Rue des Chênes, road of the oaks, that were always along that road, the would pop up there, as opposed to there's a road of oaks, but that would be less likely because avenue is more commonly used as a quantity. So, in other words, I don't need you to worry too much about the answer to the question that you've asked, although avenue des lumières for me is much better. DES. It's all about the other usages of de that we perhaps like to get into if we're looking at prepositions in an advanced way. My only final comment on de and des is to remember, God, I'm exhausted. Not from doing this, just from looking after students. 2 days down, 2 days down, another, hang on, when is it all finished? On the 29th. If anybody lives anywhere near the sea, mind you, my mom's got a place near the sea, I could go there, I suppose, but she's not there at the moment. If anybody's got anywhere that they just want somewhere really quiet, maybe some horses, they want someone to come and have a ride with them, something really quiet and chilled, and they just want a sad, lonely little language teacher who needs a week to himself, I will need that after Besançon, but there's lots of videos coming up on Besançon. I'm going to whoop their asses. My God, you're going to hear such a transformation. I will film them on day one and I will film them at the end. That's if they bloody turn up. One of them's buggering off on Monday now, even though she's planned it for a month. So she's back. She's back on the Tuesday, or I'll go and get her my damn self. So yes, more commonly then, what I'd just like you to do is be really into the vowel thing. De is chest and de is head. So one of the most common questions I get a lot of questions about at and de, and you have to be careful. You can't address it all in one video. It would be just mammoth. But one of the best things I always say for people when you're learning de and a, the two best things I say about de and a, or even de, or o, aux, is firstly, never stress the words. The words are never stressed. Il y a beaucoup de personnes. We don't say de personnes. We don't say deux personnes. We don't linger on them. So if you're trying to learn French as you should be from how things sound, never, ever, ever, ever go on, never, ever remain on the preposition. It's not a common thing to do. Sound-wise, it will sound wrong. The next thing, which is incredibly important to your technique as a whole, is be very open to whether the vibration is this head vibration or this chest vibration. I'm talking to newbies like you, Patrick, and you, Vernel, all right? So, de is chest, de is head. Yeah, a is vibration up here, o is vibration down here. And often when people go, oh, which preposition is it? Is it continuer a, continuer de? You can use both according to the rules. Essayer de, essayer a. I'm like, you know which one it is, because get used to going essayer de rather than essayer ya to go up. Rather than, and if you just go de, and they're both in the same place, then not only is it desperately unattractive, says the guy who's lying on a sofa on a pile of laundry. It's desperately unattractive, and you have no muscle memory of the vibration of the word. So I hope in a roundabout way this has answered your question, Mr. Ralphie. Yep, do let me know if it was any good. All right, guys, loads of love. Keep your eye out. There's going to be so much content this week. We're off on the Eurostar on Monday. We're off to the French pub this evening. Lots of content coming this week. All right. And like I said, let me know if you would be interested. It would be paying, it just won't be the full group. It won't be the full individual price. It'll be like, I haven't made my mind up yet, but I'm guessing, like there'd be a minimum of 4 or 5 of you, and it'd be like about, the £10 mark or something like that. Okay. So that people could still be on a level class for their level, but wouldn't be having to pay for private tuition, and would have a bit of personalized content, but you're obviously not going to have the whole hour to yourself. You're going to be sharing it with other people, like-minded people. So let me know if that'd be really, really good for you, and I will pull you up appropriately. All right, guys, loads of love. Speak soon. Take care.